Welcome to the Surviving Rapper podcast. Travis, GM, Thomas. Well, I actually am used to calling you the Mantis, but what happened there?
Well, with my injury, I had to take a little break from competing. Had to get a job that was actually going to pay me some money. I ended up working with New Hope. New Hope bought the first, franchise of the PGF, the Las Vegas Kings. They made me the GM, and so I've taken that role and I've ran with it.
And how is that for you?
Man, it's great. It's like I, we might get into it a little bit more, but when I had my injury, I was like in this spot where I was like, man, this I've never been injured in sports. Maybe like a sprained ankle, but I've never taken a game off because of injury. That's through little league baseball, high school football, college football. I played a little bit of arena football. I've never had to take time off from an injury. So when I got injured and they told me like, "Oh, you're going to need surgery. This is going to be a long recovery process," I thought, "Oh man, this is like I'm not going to be able to be in sports like I want. I wanted to be a professional athlete of some capacity." So I was like, man, this like has ruined my chances. And when I got offered the GM spot, it's not me competing necessarily, but this is like me getting to be in and around professional sports still. So it's kind of like exactly what I was wanting. So I've just hit the ground running and tried to make the best of it and be as good of a GM as I can. So yeah.
That's awesome. Let me get into knowing each other a little bit. So I met you at PGF season 6, I think
Mhm.
it was. Was it season 6?
No,
No,
I did
7.
season 5 and then season 7 in
Season
Vegas.
7.
Yeah.
True. And then we saw each other briefly in season 8. That was it. But yeah, so season 7 you came in, actually performed really well. You were a little bit sick throughout the end. I know you I didn't know a lot about you except for your Mantis Instagram and everything I knew from PGF season 5 and yeah, just BMac speaking about you being this kind of phenom talent. I also didn't know that you competed in so many sports before, so um yeah, do you want to walk us through how you even started your sports journey and how you ended up at PGF season 7, 5 and then 7?
Yeah, yeah. I guess it's kind of long, kind of starts from the very beginning. When I was young, about 4 years old, my mother had put me into baseball, just little league baseball. I never like, even now, I've never been a guy who like gets in trouble, who wants to break rules, but I have this high energy about me. I always want to be doing something. So growing up, my mom just had a little difficulty with me in the house as a child. So she put me in baseball at, like I said, 4 years old. And I played baseball all the way up until my junior year of high school. I was born in California, lived in California until I was 8. I moved to North Las Vegas until I was 12, and then I moved to Alabama, and that's where I kind of fell in love with football. That was like the sport out here in California. There was obviously there's football, but there was like weird weight restrictions. I was a pretty skinny kid, and if I wanted to play in the league, I needed to lose some weight, and it just wasn't gonna work for me. So when I moved to Alabama, it seemed like there wasn't as many rules or regulations of what had to happen. And honestly, maybe my parents and I just didn't know how to find the right teams. But I started playing football when I moved here in the 8th grade. Continued to play football until my senior year. Um, After football season, I really was interested in wrestling. We didn't have a wrestling team in my school or around in the other counties. I went to a very small school. The city I lived in had about 5,000 people. And I told I told the football coach, like, hey man, I would love to wrestle. If that's a possibility, I don't know how, but I would love to do it. And he went above and out of his way to make sure that I could get a season of wrestling. So in 2014, or I guess it was 13 to 14, I was the only and still am the only high school wrestler from Lawrence County High School. I think I did 10 matches. I went 9-1. I got invited to sectionals or whatever is after the season. And through some kind of missed payment or some kind of unalignment with the school and the wrestling program, I didn't get to go to sectionals because of like I said, like some kind of payment or paperwork that we didn't end up doing. Uh, I continued to play football into college. I only did a year. I love sports, but school is just like not my thing, especially at 17 and 18. After that, I went and got a job for about a year. I tried out for an arena football team, made that, played a season of that. That seemed to be like a lot of politics involved in that. So I quit, and sports were pretty much over from there. I just started working, doing my own thing, and I was working this welding pipe fitting job, and I was looking to move to Texas to maybe make some more money and kind of just get out of what I've been doing. I've lived in Decatur, Alabama now for 17, 18 years, and I was just like, I just wanted to go. It seemed as if my city, and I'm sure it shares the same story with a lot of small cities, is it's like you get stuck here. There's some kind of thought around that you can't leave. You just got to stay in the city and do your thing. So I was trying to get out, and my buddy had mentioned like, "Hey, dude, I know you've talked about it before. We have chatted about it. I think that if you gave it a shot, you could make it in MMA." He said, "I don't know at what capacity, but like I've just always thought that about you from watching you do athletics." And I'd saved up a bunch of money, and I was like, screw it, why not? Like, why not just go give it a shot at 10th Planet Decatur? So I walked into the gym, I took my first class, and that was it. I was hooked. It's something that, like, when I was younger, my fun time with my buddies when they came over to the house was boxing, if we had boxing gloves, wrestling on the trampoline, choking each other out, whatever it was, and it was never organized. But I've been doing grappling since I was a little kid. That's how me and my dad always hung out, just wrestled around. So once I got into the sport and realized like, oh, there's a pathway to become an athlete in jiu-jitsu, it took off. I took my first MMA fight after 6 months of training. I got my blue belt after 6 months of training. And yeah, the rest is history, Now I'm been competing and training for a little over 5 years, right around the 5-year mark. I'm a brown belt, competed at some of the highest levels. So,
damn. So did you find BMac's gym right away, or where did you start training jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so BMac owns 10th Planet Decatur here in Decatur, Alabama, and that's actually the first gym that I went to. Funny story, when I was right out of college, I went to 10th Planet Decatur. There was like a 2-week free trial that my buddy had got. He could bring a partner. And I went for like 2 days, and it was super fun. I guess just the time of my life, I just wasn't super. I was in football, it's like football was the goal. So it was fun to wrestle and do the thing, but I just didn't even have it on my mind like, oh, this could be a possibility. It was just a 2-day thing that I did, and just didn't even think about it at all.
Crazy. And like, what exactly happened during football? Because like usually this is like such a. I mean, I'm from Europe. And here I'm living in Austria now, where I grew up in Germany. I actually played football as well, even though I don't look like it, and obviously I was not made for it. I got to play a little bit because I just really always like the US sports, and I don't know how I got into it, but I saw Tom Brady, and like I got hooked by Tom Brady, and so until he was playing, I was really hooked to football, even though I stopped playing much earlier. Now I actually started like watching college football again a little bit. I was at one game of the Ducks in 2014, I think, and since then I really liked them up until they lost against Indiana so miserably, which was really bad. But at least I killed the Tide as well, so that made me a little bit happy.
Yeah, there you go.
Where did you play in college?
Yeah, so I played at a really small high school, like I said, which I think unfortunately kind of held me back from bigger schools. Obviously, if I was the best athlete in the world, it wouldn't have mattered much. But I played at a small NAIA school. It's called Kentucky Christian University. It's up in Grayson, Kentucky. And yeah, I think, I thought being an athlete, it would carry me through college and carry me through these. And that's just not the case, especially at a smaller Christian school. They're really looking for academics as well. And it's just something I wasn't interested at the time. I think if I went back now, I could hold in there and go to class, but I was young. I wanted to drink. I wanted to party. I wanted to play football. And that's what I chose to do, and it did not get me far in school.
But then like quick yeah, like we skip everything to that, and then you don't just do jiu-jitsu, but you go into MMA. Like how come you decided for that, and how difficult was it for you to just like adapt and start punching people from like, I don't know, hitting people on the football field, or what did you even play there? Like how did your all of your athletic endeavors, I know you played as a, like you were always wrestling and fighting as a kid, but like how did these multi-sport endeavors translate into you being in a freaking ring?
Yeah, I've always been intrigued with fighting. I'm not very confrontational. I'm not very aggressive as a person. I've said it plenty of times, especially since I've started training. It's super possible a bar fight could like break out. Somebody could accidentally hit me or purposely hit me, and I let it go. Now, in the moment, maybe that doesn't happen, but like that's how I feel as a person. I don't like anger. I don't like all this aggressiveness, but I've always been intrigued by fighting. I think it's like I know people say it's this chess match, and I think that's like a little bad representation because it's not like one move after one move, but there is this like this battle of intelligence going on and how you move and where you think to move and timing and all those don't necessarily just mean athleticism, but it's really like thinking. It's a thinking man's game. So it's always intrigued me. But like that non-aggression is something of a barrier. So in after college, before I started doing jujitsu and MMA, there was this Facebook group that I was a part of that did like backyard brawls, almost pretty similar to like street beefs. But this was just like Facebook. It was a Alabama backyard brawls, I think is exactly what it was called. And I signed up to do a fight. I just wanted to see like what that was about. And that was super low budget. We did a boxing match with UFC, like 4-ounce gloves, which was crazy. I ended up winning that, and like I, I just really like that. So when I got into jiu-jitsu and I came to 10th Planet Decatur, it was to get into fighting. I wanted to do MMA. The plan was once I started was I wanted to make it to the UFC. I wanted to fight in the 3 weight divisions. I'm like a pretty big 185er, a medium 205er. I would be a small heavyweight, but I thought, man, it'd be so sick because around the time I started is right when Connor started getting big too, doing the double weight class. And when you're an athlete, you have these crazy dreams, which I think is like what it takes to be a high level athlete. And I thought, man, if I can get into the UFC, do 85, 205, and heavyweight, like I could be the first triple champ. And now I don't fight no more, but I think those dreams still live on. I would love to get back into MMA. Like I said, with my knee injury, it's postponed it a little bit, but the only reason that I quit doing MMA was around season 5. I was looking to get my first pro fight. I think I'm 6-1 as an amateur. My first loss was my third fight. I fought the number 1 dude at 185 in the Southeast. He was 8-1 at the time. I lost by decision. And then I went on and won my next 3 fights, and I was ready to go pro. And every fight that I looked to get, like every fight that I signed, every contract that I was looking to get, I just could not get an opponent. People would say yes, then people would back out, or they would give me a super scrub, which usually seems to be like a professional debut. You get a guy who's not as good or not as good in winning record, but that's just like not my style. I don't want to be untested, and I'm not the biggest, baddest dude, and I want to go fight Alex Pereira for my pro debut, but I don't want to go out there and fight some dude who's 1-16, even though when people watch the fight, they'll still be like, oh, wow, Travis is so great. Just to me personally, I don't feel like that's not my mindset. It seems like a way out. So Brandon had just mentioned, like, look, if you do the PGF, you'll make more money than you will at your pro debut. And season 5, I got drafted for $1,350, which was automatically going to be more than I made in a pro debut. And then I got about $600 off of the YouTube chat as well.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah, it was a great week for me.
Dude, so much to ask because you're still like, first of all, you had so many fights in such a little time. Like how long was the time span?
Um, I did I did 7 fights in about 2.5 years.
That's pretty unusual, no?
Yeah, most people like a pretty active MMA fighters is about 3 to 4 a year. I was trying to fight as often as much as possible. I was also doing jujitsu like in the meantime. Man, but MMA is just so uncertain. It doesn't matter pro, amateur. Maybe it's just the region we're in, but there's just tons of times that I've shown up for fights, done my 6, 8 week fight camp, weighed in. Buddy was late. He said he was coming. Went to sleep. Woke up the next day. Promoter tells me, "Hey, he never showed. You don't got to fight." Yeah, it's it. And again, maybe that's just like luck of the draw, and I have bad luck. But it seems to be like me and the team that I was fighting on that happened to us all the time.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So you were doing jiu-jitsu at Brandon's, and where did you get your striking experience from?
Matt Scaff. So
Oh,
like I said, about 6 months in, I guess it was about 4.5 months in, 10th Planet Decatur, funny enough, posted a MMA event, but they didn't, like, no one did MMA at the gym, so it was unlikely that they put that poster up. And when they put it up, I seen it, went on Facebook, messaged the dude, signed up, came back to the gym and was like, Scaff, I signed up for that MMA fight. And he was like, what? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, what are you gonna do? And I said, I guess just go in there and do some jujitsu. And he was like, we'll work on striking. So Matt Scaff, he's a second degree black belt under Brandon. I might be wrong. I don't know the belts. He's either first or second degree. He's been my coach the whole time. That's who I'm belted under. But man, he took time out of his day to come up there and hit mitts with me, ones and twos and uppercuts. And that's he had no striking experience besides a little bit of kickboxing back in the day. And then I had no striking experience besides what I'd done in the backyard. And my first fight was won in 1 minute and 8 seconds by ones and twos and an uppercut.
you knocked the
Yeah.
guy out with an uppercut.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did the other fights go? Yeah, you had one loss by decision, but the others?
Yeah, so my first fight, 1 minute and 8 seconds by TKO. It was like a standing TKO. I got him up against the fence and he just kind of like sat. Ref called it. Especially amateur debut, it's pretty light, they don't want nobody getting killed. Second fight was in Biloxi. I won in about 58 seconds by armbar. Third fight, I lost the decision. My fourth fight was in Tennessee. I think I got TKO in the second round. My fifth fight, I got a TKO in the second round. And then my last fight, I got a knockout in the first round.
Wow. So no surprise, nobody wants to fight you if you're killing everybody besides
Yeah.
one dude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and
very interesting.
the third fight, no excuses at all. I showed up to fight, but I had gotten COVID that week, and we were not prepared for our cardio. I was thinking like, damn, dude, I think I might just one round everybody until the UFC. Like this is going so good. I don't think I could be beat. Got into the fight, put the dude up against the cage, big takedown. He was, back against the cage, body against me. I got a Kimura, and dude, I was putting his hand on the back of his head, and I thought it was locked. He broke out, and that was the rest of my gas. I had zero gas. I was done. So the next 2 rounds, I basically just played guard and was blocking punches, and a lot of people even thought oh damn, Travis can still win. People came up and after and was like, I don't know, it was pretty close. I think he won, especially how I felt after the fight and how he looked after the fight. I'll say he won. But after that, we were like, oh, there's more to it than being good at jiu-jitsu, being good at striking. We gotta work it all. So right after that fight, we started implementing tons of cardio, and that's kind of, I think, was what was holding me back in that fight.
Super interesting. And then you just went on an unbeaten streak again until you weren't able to fight any opponents anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then Brandon took you into the PGF, and then you made money there.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, walk us through the PGF experience for those people who don't know, because I met Brandon, I think 2-3 years ago or something, and in Belgrade, I I was visiting the guys a few times because I'm actually like half Serbian from heritage, but I've never been. And I met those guys in competition. So at some point I was like, okay, I'm gonna visit you. So I went 1 year, then I went the second, and the third year I was like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm gonna go. Money's a little tight. And then like they posted that Brandon's coming. It's like, okay, fuck, that dude's a legend. So I have to just visit. And he taught triangles, my favorite freaking submission. We hit it off. I became his uke the rest of the class, and then we sparred. We did the first dance basically. Then he got hit by a white belt, had a little bit of a cut, and he stopped rolling, and we just started talking. And then at some point he started talking about the PGF, and I have an event management background, and I was like, "Yeah, dude, if you ever want to bring it to Europe, I'm down." And he's like, "Well, we might wanna see you in Vegas." Like, what? There might be something up, and it's like, okay, interesting. And then I looked up the PGF. I got stoked immediately. It's like, what the fuck? They're fighting like 1 week, and there's this YouTube channel. They're doing like a draft, and they even have fantasy league, and like with all of the sports leagues in the US, I think this is something that Brent wanted to create, especially coming from Alabama, where everybody's such a football football freak, right? It's almost like in Texas, where it's like a national sport, like this league kind of thing, and kind of identifying with teams. This is something that we in Europe mostly have with soccer teams. Yeah, of course, maybe there's hockey and like some basketball, but soccer is the biggest one. No real other teams, and definitely not any kind of fighting sports. And this is the same in jiu-jitsu. Fighting sports or fight sports are usually more centered around individuals, right?
Yeah.
And then this was still the case in the first few PGF seasons, even though people were like gathered into teams. Can you tell me about the PGF season 5 experience and how it developed since then?
Yeah. So, like I said, Brandon had mentioned, hey, do the PGF, you'll make more money. I was intrigued. I love jiu-jitsu. I love martial arts. I think martial arts are great. I love competing in martial arts. I like the art of martial arts. So I was down. I was stoked. I was a new guy. I think at this time I've been training 3 years, maybe 3.5. I just got my purple belt, so I'm feeling really good. I'm really confident. Nobody knows me. I feel like I'm going to come out and be able to, put on a show and surprise people. Luckily, I had a great season. Season 5 was not as stacked as the seasons are now. So, there still was the Dunkables, which has kind of been like a PGF theme. There's like really good guys at the top, and then there's some subpar guys at the bottom, and it makes for this diverse season to where those are the guys you got to score on. Those are your big points, and then the harder matches you try to either draw out, or you're always trying to go for a submission, but you got to start playing the game. And I liked it a lot. I've always been into team sports. I've played baseball, I played football. I did the one season of wrestling, but that was just me, and I thought that kind of sucked. There was no teammates, nobody to train with. Just show up to a meet and try to wrestle. So yeah, I thought it was cool. I liked the draft. I liked getting money for the draft. And at this time, you can tell it's starting to get a little bit bigger. When I started PGF, they were on season 2 or 3. I can't remember which season, but it was the heavyweights. It was like actually the second or third week after I started training, they did the season, and we had to go away from the gym. At that time, they were doing a longer form season to where they would record 1 week. Record 1 week and then put it out the next. This time we got like Zoltan Bafri, Epic. What is
Epic Roll?
Yeah, Epic Roll. Ghost was the sponsor, and it seemed like there was a lot more money getting put into it. It was getting a little bit bigger. I actually ended up in the season second highest score. Elijah Carlton got the highest score. Little discrepancy because he was on the best team and they got the most team points. So if you take away all team points and it's just like original points scored by the individual, I had the most points, which I thought was great. I got to go against Kamoy Anderson in the semifinals, and I lost by overtime. Not a problem. I had a really good season, made a lot of money. But after that, I got to meet New Hope, Kevin Lucas from New Hope, which is where I work now. Like I said, we got to meet Zoltan, we got to meet the Epic Roll guys, and it opened up so many opportunities. I got to do Combat Jiu-Jitsu Worlds after that. I got to do some things with Kevin. I now work with them. I got to meet Epic Roll, got to do some things with them. But that's when you got to see like the tide shift. We were doing the week season where it was 3 matches every night for 1 week, straight into the finals. We were in a church in Decatur, Alabama. But right after that, when Zoltan seen it, was when he decided that he wanted to put it in Vegas, and that this had something that people needed to see. So, I got to see not the very beginning because I wasn't here in season 1, but I got to see pretty much when the PGF actually had its form and what they were trying to do was pretty established. They knew how they wanted to run it, all the way up to now where season 9 we're about to go in. It's a 6-week season. We have 4 bot teams. They're all franchised. I get to work on a team. The athletes' caliber is way higher. Nothing against the athletes that did it. They're the foundation of it, and they were super important. And that's kind of how we feel now. Yeah, I think it's great. I think the PGF is spectacular, and I was super happy to be a part of season 5. And then again in season 7 when I actually, we got the team win, and I got to get that $100,000 check.
How was season 7 compared to season 5 for you?
Yeah, season 5 was awesome. It was in Decatur, which is where I live. So every single night I got to go home, got to get on my video games, got to chat with my girlfriend. She came over. Life was normal. It was 5 hard days of training, 3 matches a night. So it sucked, but it was also I get to go home, take a bath, do whatever. I'm in my original routine. To where season 7 is now in Las Vegas, and it's same season, same format, 3 matches a night. But it's a little bit different when you're not home and you don't get to, run to your parents' house and chill out on the couch or call your girlfriend and she comes over or jump on the video games. It changes the dynamic a little bit. It makes it a little bit harder to be apart or be away from home. And not that I'm just some super big homebody, but it does make a difference. But winning the team prize was awesome, especially with the opportunity to make the 100,000. I think the winning prize for season 5 was $1,000 to the highest scorer, and I don't even know if there was a team prize at that time. I think everybody might have got a couple dollars, but it was $1,000 to be the highest scorer, and then $1,000 to win the individual tournament. To where now, if you win the team event, each athlete gets 20,000. If you win the solo event at the solo tournament, you get another 20. Just having that as an opportunity was incredible.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. And now I think starting from season 8, the winner also gets a UFC BJJ contract, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's pretty insane. So how has that changed the game afterwards in terms of professionalism, and also with the teams being bought, you being part of the first winning team, New Hope? I still have the rash guard, and that's one of my favorite rash guards without the lion yet.
Yeah.
But then, I mean, they became the first franchise team, right?
Yeah.
How has that changed? How is it being a GM now? How is coaching staff? You're moving to Vegas now, so it's really becoming a proper professional team.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I know it's super cool. And with the UFC BJJ fight that they get, we like to think about it as the PGF is going to be top of the line. It's going to be the NFL. It's going to be the premier sports league that everybody wants to be a part of. And then getting to get onto the UFC is obviously great. The UFC has numbers. They have the money. They've been established for a long time. But how we like to look at it is almost it's another opportunity to do something different, because the UFC is not what the PGF is. And that doesn't mean it's greater or lesser, but the PGF is a sports league. It's a professional sports league where you have teams. And like you said, we got franchises, we got GMs, we got a staff on a team. We're looking to build a team to where the UFC is a one-off. And again, a one-off in the fact that you just go by yourself, you compete, maybe you get another match. So it's it's super cool that we're even at the caliber that they're wanting the athletes to come there. So that's awesome. But yeah, like you mentioned, I am moving to Vegas to be a little bit better at my job. I'm the GM, so I'm looking to make relationships and communicate with sponsors and health and wellness, people that are going to benefit my team. And then also I want to be in Vegas because I'm the athlete liaison. You know, I got to make sure that the athletes are happy, and if I'm there in person, I can make that happen. So it's definitely becoming a real professional sport, a real professional team. And it's just at the beginning. So, you know, we kind of don't have, there's a little bit of a roadmap. We get to see how the NFL, the NBA, all these people did it. But again, it's a little bit different than that. This is a pretty niche sport that has a smaller viewing just by the way that it rolls. And we're trying to figure out how we can get that into the eyes of people of Coca-Cola, Mountain Dew, like I guess not Coca-Cola, like all these big sponsors, Wells Fargo. How can we get them to sponsor it just like they would the NFL?
Yeah, it's super interesting. And I actually wrote my first bachelor thesis about the NFL, or actually the NFL Europe, because they tried to implement it here. Unfortunately, it failed at some point because I think that the biggest issue in my eyes was, first of all, the non-existing youth structure. So there's no youth funneling for football in Europe, not as much. I mean, now there is, but they're not starting in school, right? It's like individual, privately owned teams that are maybe creating a good youth team because they're intrinsically motivated to staff their own teams,
Yeah.
but there's no school system that would support that. How is that in jiu-jitsu now? Because this is why the NFL, the NBA, at some point they got so big, because first of all they were culturally accepted sports, right? That happened unorganized, and then they started forming, and then in the end TV made them what they are, right? Like football was not so break stricken as it is now. It just became that way because they commercialized the hell out of it to make
Yeah.
it really more satisfying on TV. So actually, what football as a product is now is like it looks better on TV than it looks in the stadium.
Absolutely.
And how is this all gonna develop in jiu-jitsu? What's your guys' plan? What is your approach?
Yeah, so you know, you bring a good point about the funneling system. This is why the NFL, all these sports work, is there's a system in play to where you can play a sport from a very early age that is designed to get you ready for the next level, which is middle school, high school, club ball, which is ready to get you to the next level, which is college, club teams, minor league, which is developing you to get to the next level, which is the major leagues. You're starting to see a little bit of a change in the jiu-jitsu realm to where some colleges are actually picking up jiu-jitsu as a club sport. So there's about 22 teams nationally now in colleges where jiu-jitsu is a club sport, and they're looking to do like the SEC championships, the national championships for these club sports. So that's one really good thing. Us as the Kings are looking to start developing these programs as a younger age. We want, as the Kings, to be recognized as not just the PGF team, but a team year round, to where people can start to train with us and we can look to develop these kids. We're looking to do camps. We're looking to do seminars. We're looking to do tournaments, all for little kids, so that we can start developing these kids and showing them that there is a path and opportunity to be a professional athlete in the jiu-jitsu realm and make money from it. That's our big thing. You know, that's the PGF's thing. The first documentary that they did was No Gi, No Money. And it's talking about how there's just not the money in grappling. And I love the ADCC. I love IBJJ. Well, I don't really love IBJJF, but I love what it is, right? It's a competition that people can come and you can sign up and you get to come show your skills. And I think that's super cool. But what I don't love about it is it's almost a money grab. It's these people have started a promotion that, you know, it costs $150 to sign up. If you make it all the way to the end, they get you a free invite to the World Championships, and then if you win it, you make 10 grand. If you're a bigger name, maybe it's a little bit more. But man, you put so much money into it with monthly fees for the gym, with gear that you need, traveling expenses, smaller competitions to get you ready, coaching fees, privates, whatever it may be. There's so much money that goes into the sport. And again, it is so niche that, like, the only way for us to make money as athletes is almost to exploit other athletes, to where I put out an instructional that's $99. I make a couple $1,000s off of it, but who's buying that? It's other athletes that are looking to do the same thing. And it seems as if the system is a little broke now, to where people are broke in jiu-jitsu, and that's understood, but again, they're exploiting the other broke people to make a little bit of money. And we want that structure to be changed to where there is a system in play to where you can be a younger kid with an organization that is set up to have success. And it's not just ripping money out of these kids' pockets or these young adults' pockets, and it's actually going to be something to where they can make it and be successful. And that's like what we're looking to do as the Kings. We became the first franchise last season, and it wasn't implemented as well because it was like a little bit later start. But we got an Airbnb for our athletes. We wanted to make sure they all had a place to stay. We provided transportation if needed. We want to be, like the one-stop shop. When an athlete comes to do the PGF, they know that they're taken care of, and then we'll funnel that all the way to the bottom, and whatever that takes.
You mentioned a lot of things. So first of all, ADCC and then IBJJF. I mean, ADCC is the biggest, or one of the biggest stages in grappling. Definitely the biggest in Nogi grappling, for sure.
Absolutely.
And they continue to do so, especially after CGI's CGI 2 is like somewhat deflating last season. But yeah, you mentioned IBJJF. So for example, I want to do a world's run with my buddies, just master one purple, keep it realistic. But in order to do that, we all have to pay our memberships back for the time that we last registered, right? So for me, that was like when I was 30. So 3 years ago, I have to pay all of the blue belt fees back, and then the purple belt, and that's probably gonna be $500 until then. And then I have to, in order to like compete under the right rule set, right? I'd have to do Milan in April, which is like 500-kilometer drive, right? So you'd have to do the travel costs, also pay $100 or even more there. Then Geneva, which is also again a few hundred kilometers drive, also, yeah. And how we're gonna do this? So my idea is basically to create a school community that actually rips other athletes off, or not rips it off. I want to provide value, right? What I'm thinking is like potentially a funnel is for people who, just like I used to be, working in corporations. I had a little bit more money, and I was able to actually pay to win. Like I never really won competitions, but I was paying to get private just because I love the sport so much. I flew to Austin to train with Danaher and the B team, and this all happened with my corporate money. So this is also my goal of trying to make jiu-jitsu more mainstream, to get like more higher paying clients in, that then they can actually afford to get good instructions and like succeed maybe a little bit faster, maybe not having to be injured as much, right? And like funnel that money to support my friends and I's journey as athletes. And I think all we have to do, and the Kings are on a good way there, like, is create meaningful content and show the sport what jiu-jitsu really does. And I just think it's not just the martial art itself, but the character development that comes with jiu-jitsu is next to nothing that I've ever experienced. And I've done soccer, handball, water polo, American football, tennis, and jiu-jitsu, and like nothing has got me hooked as jiu-jitsu, and nothing has connected me to so many great people just like you, that are all over the world, where I can basically just grab my gym bag and look on Google which is a cool gym that has a cool culture, and I can drop in there, and if I don't like it, I go to another gym the next day, and then I fly somewhere else, and like everybody's super welcoming, and I have friends like this all over the world. And this is what I want to show the people. And I think this is also something that the Kings do, because they cannot be in it just for the money, right? Because right now, I can imagine there's a lot of money not going down the drain, but it's a heavy investment that, where the return of the investment will probably have to wait for a long time.
Yeah. We're looking at the ROI, and it seems to be further in the future than most would like, But I mean, you hit it right on the head. Is not only does jiu-jitsu build culture, and that's why, Kevin Lucas, the co-founder of New Hope, he's the owner of the Las Vegas Kings. That's what he's in it for, is when he started getting into his martial arts journey, it's a story that I'll let him tell. It's pretty sincere to his heart. He doesn't mind sharing it, but that's his story. and it is pretty touching. The reason that he's in it, but his main focus is making sure that athletes and coaches can stay on the mats longer, because if he believes if he had a coach a little bit sooner, that maybe he could have prevented or helped prevent some things that happened to him in his life. And that's what he wants to do. Is he understands that jiu-jitsu provides a culture, but he also wants the Kings to provide a culture. And during the season, we do lots of leadership every Tuesday before match day. We bring out the guys. We'll bring a financial advisor. We'll bring a leadership mentor. We'll bring somebody of some kind of caliber to bring value back to the guys, because we want the guys to not only be good athletes, but we want them to be good people. And we want this. We're starting at the top so little kids and parents of little kids can see, the Kings have a culture. Like, I want my kid to be like Jet Thompson. Jet Thompson carries himself well, and then they keep going through all these traits of what's good, and then they're like, well, where did this stem from? And we didn't build Jet. Jet's an amazing kid on his own, but we tried to instill things into Jet that hopefully he takes on and continues to do, and they'll see the culture around our team as professionalism, leadership. We're selfless as much as we can be. We still want to win and we still want to be athletes, but we're really trying to create this culture of when you see a King or you see a guy in a King's shirt, King's jersey, that he's part of a culture.
Man, that's beautiful. I didn't know all of that. Like, I mean, me as a leadership coach, my heart is like thriving from hearing that you're providing this, and also financial advice to the guys, because I mean, we know what happens to a lot of college football players. Like, I mean, nowadays it might be different, but back then when they didn't have any money, they were basically slaves of the NCAA, and then they came to the NFL with big contracts. A lot of them would be ending up broke once they got an injury, once they got cut early, because they never knew how to deal with money, right?
Yeah.
Like their whole environment was not ready for this kind of financial impact, and it was gone just like that.
Yeah.
So that's really forward thinking and actually really amazing. So I'd really like to talk to Kevin if you could make that happen at some
dude,
point.
absolutely. I'll make that happen. It's funny you mentioned that. Odell Beckham Jr. came out a year or two ago, maybe a little bit less, and he had wrote a tweet saying that, basically describing how $21 million a year wasn't as much money as people think, and it's not enough money to make generational wealth. And I think it goes to show, one, like, that's a pretty wild statement to make when you're a professional athlete and that rich. But two, obviously the dude hasn't had any really financial help or financial leadership in his life, because I'm looking at making generational wealth, and obviously it's not happened yet, but I promise you I do not make $21 million a year. So yeah, I think you can see that a lot of these athletes are treated as athletes, and they're treated as Spartan warriors fighting in the Coliseum. Like, they're pretty expendable, and we give them a bunch of money and they just do whatever they want with it. We don't care how they treat their women, how they treat kids. We just care if they come and perform on Sundays,
That's pretty crazy. So, like, you mentioned a few things earlier that I want to touch upon. So you want to create the Kings as like a brand and also as a gym to go to. So how does it look like right now when you're moving to Vegas? Are you gonna have like a Kings gym, or are you gonna be working with people like I saw Ricky Landell conversing with you a lot and like being close to you guys? Are you gonna be using or like collaborating with established gyms, because there's tons in Vegas, or are you planning to build your own place and just have different coaches come in? What's the idea?
Yeah, so Ricky Lundell is going to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Kings. He has his assistant coach, which is Todd Prass. They've worked together with plenty of high-level athletes, I mean, at the top level. We're not necessarily looking to establish a gym like the Kings gym where everybody gets a membership and comes train, but we will be looking in the future of establishing our own gym so that the Kings, the team of the Kings, will have a place to come train, and during the season we'll be training there. During the off season we can come train there. We're looking at building a stadium. We want the Dallas Cowboys Stadium to where we have a facility. We house our athletes during season. Off season, they go back home and do their thing, and then when it's time to get ready for the season, they come back and do it. So we're looking to establish just whatever a professional sports team would have. We want a workout facility. We want a gym to where we can train. We want chiropractors and doctors who are on staff who can, make sure that our guys are getting rehabbed, getting prehabbed, whatever you need. We got it there.
That's amazing. Wow. How is the roster gonna look like? Because how it was built now so far, right? It was just random dudes coming in to qualify to the seasons. Some people were drafted or like were invited. Like I met PJ Barge. He was one of the bigger names and in season 6, and then there was Ben Eddy and but also people like Elijah who came up from the PGF, right? And then some other non like lesser known names who were able to qualify. Now with the teams, like I saw that every team has their own qualifier, so it seems like a little bit of like an internal draft. But then how does it work for the weight classes? Like, am I as an athlete just gonna be there during my season, which is like 6 weeks, during spring? I don't know, and then the heavyweights come in during winter. What's the game plan?
Yeah, so I don't necessarily know how much of this is like general population knowledge, so I might get in trouble for sharing too much, but that's okay. Um, but so yeah, how you mentioned each team has their own qualifiers. This is a little bit more of a way that, teams can start getting a little bit of a return on investment because there's not stadiums, there's not ticket sales. It's going to be hard to do merch and all that, especially with the fact that we don't have our own stadium, we don't have our own presence yet. So we're kind of rolling off the PGF, trying to get a little bit of return on investment, not only in the fact of money, but also like we want the teams to see what we provide as a team, or we want the athletes to see what we provide as a team. And again, we're not going to be running qualifiers all the time, but they get to see the production value to bring the professionalism that we bring to this qualifier. So that's one. The qualifiers are still just PGF qualifiers. They are qualifying to be on the PGF. It's just hosted by a team. So we'll still continue to go to the draft, and then the athletes that win the qualifier will be put in the draft. Same thing, there are some athletes that get put into the season without the draft. And then the new thing this year is we got to pick up 2 locked players. So we got Cam Hurd and Jet Thompson. Those are our locked players, and we'll be looking to draft 3 more at the draft. This season, it's going to be a little bit different. So last season, there was everybody in the draft. Everybody got drafted, and then there was 9 or 10 people who were supposed to be free agents. They're the injury reserved. This year, there's like 30 or 28 people in the draft. We only need 20 people drafted. I don't know, those numbers aren't exactly correct, but just kind of telling you. We only need 20 people drafted. There's 28 in the draft, so 8 people are going to go undrafted, and they'll become the injury reserve, to which we'll then pull from them. Last year, we had a little bit of confusion. Not confusion, but whenever there were some athletes in the player pool that didn't get picked up that had a little bit higher skill caliber than the athletes that did get picked up. Again, not a problem. It's little things that you run into, but like a Derek Rayfield got picked up as an injury reserve, or Dominic Mejia got picked up as an injury reserve. And it's like, those were the 2 number 1 or 2 of the top 3, top 5 people, and they were as an injury reserve. So sometimes it kind of messes up how it works. Now everybody's in the draft. You get to pick from every skill level that's on the draft list. If somebody happens to go, let's say, who's pretty high pick? We'll just say Eric Allen, for instance. Eric Allen, he's not pretty unknown. He's a purple belt. Let's say he's the best guy in the season, number 1 pick, doesn't get picked up and becomes a injury reserve. Well, it's like we know that he's injury reserve, so it's not weird when the Alabama Twisters pick him up because one of their teams get injured, and then everybody's like, "Whoa, why did they get the number 1 guy?" You know what I mean? So we kind of fixed that this season, and then going on, what the PGF wants to do is become the NFL. Like we said, we want 32 teams across the nation. We want to have our own games during the season. So Alabama Twisters come to Las Vegas Kings. Las Vegas go to Alabama Twisters. It becomes a real sports league. It's going to be really hard to have 32 teams full of 5 people at one weight class. I mean, that's 150 athletes at one weight class. So eventually what we look to do is make it like a team duel format where there's an athlete from each weight class, and then you can get the depth of your roster that way.
Nice. Yeah, that's what I was hoping for, and that's what Brandon also kind of like hinted at. This will be the long-term plan, but of course that requires a lot of money, a lot of travel costs, especially, right? Like all of the facilities need to be built, which for now it's of course nice to do it in the gyms, right? But I guess the traveling and everything, and also having the athletes ready at all times throughout the season. This will be probably the biggest fish to fry in terms of like logistics and paying for the logistics. So what's the King's way of going at it? Will it be a community effort of all team owners going and collecting sponsor money, or is it the individuals teams efforts, or what's the idea there?
Yeah, so the owners of the team and like the staff of the team, we're all super close, especially now. There's rivalries in me and Fleroy got our little rivalry, but it's almost more for camaraderie and for people to watch and get excited about something. But we're all working really close together on making sure everybody's informed on what we're looking to do, what they're looking to do, and we're definitely helping each other out, but at the same time, we're like looking to advance ourselves. The Kings, we want to be the forefront or the forerunner. We want to be in front. We want to make sure that we're getting the best sponsorships, we're getting the most sponsorships, and then people follow suit. We want to have the best qualifiers so that the next one gets ran, they try to do better, and then we come and we do an even better job. So there's that. Also, it's gonna take it's gonna take everybody jumping on board. Sometimes I hear the athletes like, well, I don't want to come do 6 weeks. It's not even that big of a thing. And it's like, if no one thinks of it as a big thing, it will never be a big thing. When you have people who believe in it, who want to leave their job, and I know it's a huge ask, but like, there are athletes who live in their car to train just because they love the game, and that's kind of like the attitude we need behind this, because that's what it's going to take for a sponsor to come in, a Coca-Cola to come watch the PGF, see how invested everybody is, how much everybody's trying to make it great, and that's when people take shots. That's when people will say, "Yeah, I'll throw a couple $1,000,000 to this because I see the idea." I see the passion in all the staff, and I also see the passion in all the athletes. So that's what we're kind of trying to do. We have a couple ideas of how we can get people in front of the PGF to see it, and how we can get our vision in front of them to see if they would like to sponsor. But it's going to be pretty individualized on how we're getting sponsorships team by team.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I love the closeness of all of you guys, and I mean a lot of you are coming from the Alabama region, right? Or have at least originated from there. I know Matt Elkins, for example, also like slipped into this kind of role as becoming an advisor to Hodger in season 6, I think, and then he like stepped up as like the first somewhat informal GM until you actually formalized that first position with the Kings. But let's get back a little bit to I want to talk about your injury. But first, you mentioned Jed Thompson and Cam Hurt. Why were these two athletes picked by you guys, and how come they competed so many different weight classes so far?
Yeah, they do some crazy weight cuts, and hey, more praise to them. I'm a little bit of a bigger guy, and 185 is the lowest I can go, and I would never want to do it again. Jet said after the 155 season he'll never go that low again because that was really low. But as the Kings, I mentioned like these leadership qualities we're looking for. We want to build character. We're trying to. So for this first season, I guess last season was our first season, but for this next season, we have a little bit more grasp of what we want to do and how we can do things. We've had a little bit more time to figure it out. We're looking for like a player profile more or less than just a specific athlete. And Cam and Jet both kind of encompass what we're looking for. They're both professional. They both show up. They both not only show up but show out. Not necessarily by just winning, but they're always ahead in the game. They're always pushing the pace. They're always looking to get the next win. but they're also on off the mats, again, professional, good character, selfless. They both believe in God, which is something that the Las Vegas Kings pretty heavily stand in. Um, so that's kind of what we're looking for our athletes, and they don't have to necessarily believe in God. That's obviously a plus for the Kings, but usually people with that belief are fighting for something bigger than themselves, which is kind of what we want. You know, if you're fighting for yourself and you lose, maybe sometimes you don't show up. But if you got a bigger goal, you're fighting to feed your family. You want your mom in a big house. Those are things deeper than you, and then you have to reach more for something like that. You know, and you can't give up because it's not giving up on yourself. That's pretty easy to do. Most people can see they could see the faults in everybody else, and then when they look at themselves, they just don't even think about it, you know. So when you're fighting for, like I said, house for your mom, food for your family, fighting for God, it brings a different intensity. It brings a different level of like respect to the game because it's for something else than yourself.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you're saying this. You know, like I used to be, like, I grew up atheistic, kinda, and then like because my dad had bad experiences with the church,
As we all.
yeah, I mean, like believing in some sort of higher power, or like call it God, whatever, doesn't necessarily mean like it needs to be like a certain institution. And like I've come also to the belief like that I would call myself spiritual, and I believe in some sort of God nowadays. I wouldn't necessarily not wear a cross just because
Yeah.
it's still, you know, like that priest that kind of like wanted me to be baptized and like made me, or like ridiculed me in front of the class, that's still in there. But I understand like that belief in the higher power, and like how you can, like how you can believe more in yourself. And I think the Dagestanis in the UFC have shown like their that willpower that is tied to this higher power as well, that
Mm-hmm.
makes them fight through so much more struggle, I think. And I think this has been missing a little bit.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely see how this can be a huge part of the culture, and like make people more selfless, and therefore also make them better team players on and off the mats. And yeah, you're saying like the individual characters of Jet Thompson and Cam Hurst, like yeah, those dudes are awesome. Especially Jet is just a kid.
Yeah.
Cam, he has been through so much, and he's just such a beast, and always just incredibly humble. So yeah, I can definitely see that. When you're looking at like an athlete's profile in terms of what what competitions they need to win, how they should perform, like which competitions are you looking at? Like, are you looking at people like Pavel Yavorski, who I think is a great dude, like one of the best guys right now, breakthrough grappler of the year. And I've hosted him at my place. I can legitimately say like he's one of the nicest people ever.
Yeah.
But he's mostly competing in IBJJF. He has not been so incredibly successful in ADCC yet. But like, who are you looking at? Who do you want in the Kings, or in general in the PGF?
Yeah, I would say when we're doing our scouting reports, we've we've extended the offer to all the athletes on the draft that if they wanted to do a scouting interview or a scouting call with the Kings, we would be open to do that. I think we've done about 10 of them, maybe 8 or 10 of them. And man, they all come from different walks, whether it is IBJJF, grappling games, ADCC, whatever it is. I don't think we too much mind about what competition you're doing. The PGF is so much different, you know? It's not the IBJJF, it's not ADCC. Both of these rule sets allow people to, like, they allow room for stalling. Again, I love jujitsu. I Crazy enough, I seen Master Worlds my first time. When I was in Las Vegas, I got to go watch it, and I thought it was kind of crazy how the game was played. They're like in the finals, both people are grabbing hands, sitting to the butt, and then waiting to be reset. I thought that was a little weird. That's not really my style. But again, it's a game. You know, you got to figure out a rule set, and you got to game that rule set. So I think we're more or less looking for people who are coachable, people who can adapt, and then again, at this caliber, everybody in the draft, everybody who's doing the PGF is going to be a high level athlete. There are some better than others, but for the most part, everybody on the roster is pretty talented. So competition doesn't really matter. Accolades don't really matter. What we're looking to do is we're looking to take again, that player profile, that somebody that when we talk to them, we see that they're fighting for a bigger cause. Somebody who's going to be coachable and somebody who's going to work well with the team. We want to build long-term relationships, not just a season. We don't want a guy to come in, be the best athlete, have a shit attitude, and then not really work well with the team. We're looking, if we could put you on the team, maybe you don't have the best season, but you keep working with us and we'll get there. Ricky Lundell has been doing jiu-jitsu and been in martial arts for 32 years. Todd Prass, very close to the same. I've only been in it 5 years, but I'm heavily immersed. Kevin Lucas has been in and around jiu-jitsu for a long time. More or less on Kevin's side, he's been in and around business for the past 30 years. So we have these really high-level dudes that we can really translate a lot of things to them. And if we have enough time with them, we'll make them great athletes. So what we need is the coachability, the diverseness. So again, yeah, I guess to answer your question, it's not really competitions or accolades that we're looking for. We're just looking for a certain kind of player.
Sounds interesting. So if I'm speaking about logistics and the practical terms, so somebody like Jet, let's say he's not doing 3 weight classes or even 2 this year. Will he be able to live at home and just come to camps, or like how will the life of a Kings athlete change?
Yeah, I think we get a better look at that the longer that the season goes. Now this is the first season with four teams, so it changes a little bit. Last year there was 2 teams and 2 sponsor teams, so this all changes. But we're really looking. We know the PGF pays the athletes, but we want to get these athletes paid more. So we're really looking to do. That's what I'm talking about. These camps, these seminars, these kids camps, and we want the Kings to be able to come and teach and profit off of those. And that's kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier. Is a lot of systems are exploiting the jiu-jitsu athlete, and I don't think that's necessarily wrong, because even in football, high school football, you can go to a Nike camp, you can go to these camps that cost money, but what we want to do, like you said, is bring value. I don't want to sell a rash guard that's gonna be shit, or I don't want to sell an instructional that's just stolen off of somebody else. We want value. So when we bring a Jet Thompson into a camp, the value is Jet is he's a 3-season vet. He won a team championship, or no, he won 1 individual championship. The Kings have won 3 individual championships. This is what we want. We want the kids to be able to say, like, oh, there's actually value to this than some guy that's just won an ADCC Open. And again, that's a super cool accolade, but I think people use that accolade on a lot higher pedestal than it actually carries, if that makes sense. So we're looking to get these guys seminars. We're looking to get them kids camps so that they can make a little bit more money on the back end. Eventually, when we figure out a facility, we will probably call training camps during the year, whether that's a summer training camp to get them ready for the next season, or bring the athletes out a couple weeks early. It still will change because the draft, right? We don't have a full team of locked-in players. We just have Cam and Jet. So it's possible we invite them out for a little bit of a training camp with just us. But once it gets to a bigger season where the team roster is pretty full out, we got, all of our guys, then we'll bring them in for that. But it just depends on which way it goes,
Nice. So when you're talking about bringing seminars, bringing value to the community, are you then trying to mainly build that all around the Vegas area, or are you gonna try to expand that and do like nationwide tours? What's the idea there?
Yeah, we would love to do nationwide tours. Man, we would love to get international with it as well. Whatever we can, right? The PGF, if it's going to be a professional league, it's going to take athletes from everywhere. You have some athletes from Europe who come over to America to play soccer, or every part of the world come to America to do something. People from America go overseas to play other sports and stuff. And that's what we would look to do. We want to start with the reason, like being reasonable. It's going to be harder for us to go all the way across the world to do a seminar when we really haven't made any money and we don't know what that looks like logistically. But so we'll probably start in Vegas, where we have a pretty good core group of schools and gyms. We all have relationships out there. Then we'll start to branch out. Maybe Oklahoma. That's where Jet's from. He knows a bunch of gyms. Cam's from Virginia. So we go to these different states where different people are, and just look to build it from there. And man, as long as we have the product to build, we'll keep building.
Nice. Well, I've been talking to Brandon and Zoe. I want to bring the PGF to Europe. This was my initial idea when we were in Vegas the last time for season 8. Brandon wanted to sell us a team. Unfortunately, we do not have the funds yet, but I have some ideas maybe how we could get that. But yeah, let me think about and talk to my guys how we could maybe do a Euro tour for you in the future or something.
Yeah.
Because Jiu-Jitsu is still heavily underrepresented in Europe, even though it's growing massively. And I also think the mainstream adoption is coming. I mean, you have Ashton Kutcher now pulling guard on like nationwide TV. That is actually reaching all over the world. You have people like Zoltan, who is combining like his rock stardom with his judo jiu-jitsu background, and yeah, I think it's just continuing. I think mass adoption is just around the corner, especially with UFC BJJ, and I think you guys are in a really good way of making the life as an athlete for jiu-jitsu people really possible, and also actually a dream and not just a struggle where everybody is just like individually fighting for their own life. Because this is also something that, and why I want to do this Worlds Run now is with my friends, is I don't care for individual accolades. I'm using this just as one part next to my business, or like also using this as my business credibility somehow, because I wanna create something that combines the martial arts community with like coaching and leadership and reform the management world. And I think this is where a lot of the money can then later come in through bigger corporations to actually funnel into the athletes. Because let's face it, like with AI around the corner and with like a lot of people losing their jobs, what are they gonna do once so many people are gonna lose? There will be fights, there will be a lot of depression, and we know one of the best ways to get out there is do sports. And like, which better sport to do when you're depressed and hating life than to do martial arts? I think as jiu-jitsu saves lives is one of the truest statements out there.
Yeah.
And I really heavily believe in that. But yeah, this I'm gonna use this maybe to like go back to your own personal story. So tell me about your injury. So in season 7, when we met, you were still healthy, right? You were competing. You just got a little bit of a cuff, and you were sick by the end of the tournament, but your leg was not screwed yet.
Correct. Yeah. I man, staying at the Orleans, I don't know if it was that.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Yeah. I've always had like a pretty big sensitivity to cigarette smoke. And man, the Orleans is full of it. And I think that it just, because it seemed like the week after I got back home, every day I was getting better and better. So I think it was the atmosphere. And I probably could have competed in the final. But dude, once I won $20,000 and I felt like shit, I was like, why? I thought, I even communicated with my coach, and we both thought, like, why go out there and put a lackluster performance on, if I'm not feeling up to it, which have some regrets. I think, like, maybe I should have gone out there, but that's besides the point. I ended up coming back to Decatur, and shortly after I moved to Nashville to teach at a school. Jiu-Jitsu was starting to get to where I was making a little bit of money, and I got invited to come take it wasn't like the head instructor, but the 2 bigger classes of Tuesdays and Thursday nights. So I went out there, moved in with my girlfriend, and was coaching. I started doing a bunch of lifts. I was trying to get a little bit bigger. I wanted to compete in that heavyweight range, especially during jiu-jitsu. So I was working out a bunch, and one day I did like an hour leg workout. Nothing crazy, just an hour leg workout. I went into about an hour of leg locks with a buddy just drilling, and then we had a open mat. And I think that I just like really got really tired. And I was wrestling, jumped on some guy's back. He like went to the ground, and we kind of just landed on my leg. Nothing, it didn't seem like it was big. It almost felt like a funny bone pain. Like when I hit my knee, it like kind of vibrated. And then I like went to throw my hook in to like pull with my hamstring, heel to butt, and it hurt. And I was like, well, that's weird. So I like got up and like moved and walked, and I jogged, and I was like, no, it feels great. Just like heel to butt's kind of sore. So I went and got it checked out, and the doctor had mentioned, I didn't get an MRI, just a little field test. And he said, honestly, it feels as if you have tweaked your PCL. It's not torn, but it seems like you tweaked it. If you give it about 6 weeks, super light work, you should be fine. It will heal itself. Well, I don't know about other athletes, but I don't listen to the doctors very well, and I competed about 9 times in that 6 weeks. Yeah, and the last competition I did was a tryout for IAGA. It was the IAGA qualifier for the heavyweights at 10th Planet. I won my first match, and that was actually the first day that I was able to like duck walk or duck crawl over my knee like I was taking a shot. And man, I even mentioned it before my last match. I was like, dude, I just think I'm going to hurt my knee. Went into the match. I was in mount. I tried to do this back take that I sit mount, grab an elbow, grab the chin, and like pull them, turn them around. And when I sat away, it put me into the reap. And I try to go back to mount. It wasn't like I was trying to go into the reap, but I tried to go back to mount, which was going into the reap. And when I turned, my knee just popped. I completely tore my ACL, PCL, and LCL. And it was bad.
Dude, how did that feel? Because I tore my ACL in competition and I didn't know.
Yeah.
Like I heard this, like I was passing top half guard, trying to go for a front headlock. It was the last match. I was super gassed. Didn't want to actually compete at all, but just went there to coach and like, yeah, 3 people in my bracket, easy medal maybe, like just first purple belt competition, try it. Then the guy like sweeps me with a weird kind of like, it wasn't a proper lockdown, but it felt like my knee got stuck, and then like there was this reaping kind of situation, and it just did this like branches, like it sounded like dry branches once.
Yeah.
And we both stopped and like looked at each other and like it hurt a little bit, and at the beginning it's like, no, it's fine. And then we continued and like he kind of took mount, I bridged, and then I heard this fucking noise again. I was like, oh fuck, and he got my back and I immediately tapped. I felt like something was unstable. I still took drove the car home at the same night, 3 hours. And then the next day was a little bit sore. Couldn't get heel to butt anymore, which for me was really unusual and I didn't like it. But the next day, of course, I went to the gym. And then,
Yeah.
like I felt that there was this weird instability. And whenever I would plant my heel and like my hip would look another way, I would feel like this like detachment kind of sensation.
Mm-hmm.
I waited for 3 months because like, yeah, why go to the doctor,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. Dude, if you don't know about it, it's not broke.
yeah, exactly. And like I actually went after 3 months because the pain still was there and I couldn't get healed to butt. But I thought it was a meniscus thing, like I was so afraid of the meniscus because the ACL, right? It's not gonna hurt after 3 months of being torn. So everybody was saying like, nah, there's nothing. And probably also the swelling was so much that when the physio, my friend, did that weird test, like it didn't split apart like it would.
Yeah.
And then I went to a private doctor. He sent me to an MRI. He also didn't think that the ACL was gone, but apparently it was. And the pain that I had was just like a freaking bone bruise, right? That was actually gone like shortly after the MRI. And then I realized, okay, I don't have an ACL anymore. But by then, like my knee was stable enough that I thought I'm not gonna go for a surgery now because that will get me off the mats for like 6 to 9 months at least. But yeah, with the triple ligament injury, how did that feel? Like, I mean, you must have known that was over.
Yeah, I mean, right after I knew that my leg had popped in some kind of way, I didn't know the severity of it, but I definitely knew that it was going to be a very long time that I was out. If you watch the match, it doesn't really look like much happened. I turn into it, I tap, I kind of like scream, tap, 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 tap. I get up, I walk, get my hand, he gets his hand raised, and then I like walk away. But I knew my leg was messed up. It started hurting that night to where like any kind of movement hurt, and then the next day I had to walk in the airport and I like could not put any weight on it. It honestly took, I think that was February 2nd or I think it was February 2nd or February 6th that I injured my leg. I ended up getting surgery April 19th, so just about a month after. But during that month, I was able to get my knee strength back up to, with no ligaments, I was able to get it up to like a 455 deadlift and like 300 pound sandbag carries. So I did a lot of prehab. The PT that I use, his name is Trent Nesler. Dr. Trent Nesler, the BJJ ACL guy. He's on Instagram. He's phenomenal. He wrote the back to play test for ACLs that all sports leagues uses. He has a couple things that he uses in his practice that are amazing, but he did a really good job of getting me prehabbed up for surgery. And then once I had surgery, it all went back downhill. What's crazy is I didn't realize, I mean, I knew it, but like I didn't think about how bad my knee was going to be after surgery because of how much I prepared for surgery. But I mean, once you get your leg cut into it, yeah, you can't do anything. For the first 4 weeks, I was not walking without crutches, barely walking with crutches. Pain was intense. Yeah, it's probably the worst pain I've ever been in my whole life. I never thought it was going to end, but around 4 months, I got to start training again. I went to PT 3 times a week for the first 6 months. I started the day after surgery. We did electric medicine. We did ice baths. We did red light therapy. We did BFR. We did pretty much everything under the sun that you can do for rehab, and it ended up being great.
What did you do? Like, how did you get well mentally during that time of not being able to do anything?
I think a lot of people were telling me how bad it was going to be and how hard it was going to be at home. And honestly, just PT became like my new jiu-jitsu. It was cool in a sense of every time I went to PT, it was almost like hitting a new PR. And of course, the PRs were low. My first time on a bike was, I think, 2 weeks after surgery, and I did like a Tabata workout and got maybe 40 calories. But then the next time I did it, I got like 42, and then it was 45. And I'm really competitive, even if it's with myself, and I enjoyed that a lot. It got harder the healthier my knee got because I wanted to be doing jujitsu. I wanted to be running, and like still now, I think it's harder than it was at the beginning. Because I would say I'm probably right around 70 to 80%. I can pretty much roll 100%. I can wrestle pretty well, but like I can't jump. My knee doesn't have much explosion. It's like hard to land one-legged. Knees over toes is still a hard task for me to do. So there's things that I can't do that kind of bother me, especially coming from such an athletic background. I've never been one that like is the slowest, can't jump the highest. It's always been, for me, it's always been super, I don't want to say easy, but pretty common to be the best athlete in the room. So now realizing that it's kind of different, and it's not to say that I won't get back to that, but still early on in recovery, now it seems a little bit harder. But that kind of rolls into, how I got started to working with New Hope. About 2 months after surgery, like the PGF money was running out. $20,000 is a lot of money, but when you're not working and you're living in Nashville, Tennessee, it's money goes quick. And I'm still buying groceries. I don't have like no funds coming in. Besides one thing, Gold BJJ, they sponsored me right after the PGF. They put me on a certain amount of money every month. And when I had my knee injury, they continued to sponsor me throughout the whole entire year, which I thought is the coolest thing ever. I'll always be grateful to Gold BJJ, so a little shout out to them. But about 2 months in, I had to start looking at getting jobs, and it was kind of difficult because I've been training full-time jiu-jitsu for 4 years, no work, maybe a job here and there, but basically no work. And like now going back to this 9 to 5, having to get up at 6 in the morning, go drive a forklift, whatever it may be, like that didn't sound too fun. And I don't have a college degree or anything, so my jobs are going to be construction, forklift driver, truck driver, something that's not very desirable for most people. And I was able to hit up Kevin Lucas at New Hope and just said, hey man, I don't know if it's possible, but I'm willing to do whatever I can if you guys have an opening. He had me come down to Florida, put me and my girlfriend up in a hotel. He knew I was like, kind of not, it's not like I was sad and thought about hurting myself or anything like that, but like this was definitely, I was down, I wasn't happy about what was happening, and he put me up, got to get a little vacation, and he offered me, a job as an educator for stem cell therapy. And it was awesome because I didn't have anything to look forward to. It was going to go back to a forklift job or go back to trying to weld or something like this. And this just created an opportunity to where I could still be at home. I could still have some money, but a job that wasn't going to like take away from my jiu-jitsu and training. And the New Hope turned into the Las Vegas Kings GM, and now I get to work with both. And so yeah, just awesome, man. Sometimes when you get beat up or you get pushed down in life, it can seem like it's the end, especially when you think everything's going great. My plan was 4 years into jiu-jitsu, I would start making money off of it and I would be able to make a living. I was at the 4 year mark. I just started making money and then my knee exploded, and it makes you think like, man, am I doing something wrong? Is this the wrong path? But I think sometimes God, whatever you want to call it, life, there's a plan that you just don't understand. And I think that if I wouldn't have been injured, I wouldn't have had the capacity to talk to Kevin. Even though I hit him up for the job, I wouldn't have the capacity to take that much time off. I wouldn't have the capacity to go spend two months in Las Vegas for the GM position. So I think everything happens for a reason, and it was just it was perfect. It's like now creating the opportunity to move to Vegas, and me and my girlfriend plan on taking that opportunity and trying to make as much money as we can, and we can start a little family, we can get married, have a little kiddo running around. So you think that things really are bad, but there's always light on the other side.
And that's a beautiful story. And if you wouldn't mind, I think we should slowly end it here, because it's probably not gonna get any better than that, unless you still have something to say. I have one question regarding New Hope, stem cell therapy. Were you able to use it in your knee recovery somehow?
Yeah, so when I met Kevin season 5, I had really bad wrists and shoulders that I would just jiu-jitsu injuries. And after the season, I was able to get stem cell therapy then. It really helped my wrists and shoulders. It was to the point that I could only do jiu-jitsu on my knuckles because I couldn't place on my hands. And now I'm back to being able to do handstands, working out, doing all the things to my wrists and shoulders. I was able to compete for Kevin on Team New Hope for Subversive about 3 times. Season 7, when we won, we got therapy, which was right. I got it probably a month before my knee surgery. So, yeah, man, I also got to get another round of stem cell therapy during the recovery process about 6 months in. And I can't say, like, oh, dude, stem cells, they fixed my knee completely. Because I've never had surgery. I've never had a knee issue. But my PT has dealt with plenty of people with ACL, MCL, LCL, whatever it may be, LCL or CL dislocations, whatever it is. And, we're talking a triple ligament surgery recovery time is about 12 to 18 months. And I was training at 4 months, and there's a lot of things that go into it. Discipline, the mindset, being confident enough to come out there and work with your injury. But stem cell therapy definitely helped in some capacity, whether it was, me allowing me to be able to think like, oh, this is helping, this is doing great. But recovery seemed great, sleep was great, everything was great. I was hitting all the markers, and I was able to utilize stem cell therapy, and I believe it really helped me out. And not only did I believe it then, but now since I've been able to work with New Hope, I get to see people of my own. I'm pretty skeptical. You could tell me, hey, the government's going to give you $2,000. And I'm like, yeah, probably not. That you could show me the paper. I'm like, yeah, it's not happening until it happens. So when Kevin is telling me these stories of, oh, here's this lady, she got this is what happened. I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe, but it seems a little bit more like you're trying to sell me a product. And I got to see it firsthand. I got a doctor here in Decatur that I was able to provide him with stem cell therapy, and, not to get into his medical stuff, but a couple weeks later, he's giving me a call about like, hey, this seems pretty early, but this has changed up, or, so I got to see it firsthand. So not only do I know it worked in myself because I got to feel it, but I get to see it with other people as well.
That's amazing. Like here in Europe, especially Germany, Austria, it's not. I mean, they've been apparently working on it quite a bit, but it's not as readily available. But for people who want to come over to the States, can you provide any information about like how much this could cost and where to
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it?
Yeah, so we provide two levels of therapy. It's 1 cc or 2 cc's. For 2 cc's of therapy, which is we like to look at it as a gas tank, depending on your age, your weight, the amount of injuries that you have. A lot of times, people over 25 with injuries, we will recommend 2 cc's, and that's $6,500. And then under whatever it may be that allows you to get 1 cc, it'd be $3,500. You
Wow,
know, yeah, Kevin's thought is we could obviously charge just like everybody else does. Usually, on average, in the states, it's 10 to 15,000. Out of states, it's usually like 15 to 30,000, sometimes even more. We could do that, and we could provide the services that they do for the same amount. But again, back to Kevin's story, his idea is to get as many people as possible healthy so that they can continue rolling. We obviously make our money. It's a company; it has to make money to survive. But the idea isn't to exploit people out of their money or ask them to sell their car. It's, we want people to be healthy, and however low of a price we can do that and continue to stay in business but help people out, that's what we look to do.
that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you, Trev. Where should people go? Where can they get it? How long does it take? So if I wanted to come to the US to get a treatment, how long would I
Yeah.
have to stay?
Yeah, so we always say therapy. The FDA holds treatment and cure, so we can't say those words. It's stem cell therapy. Um, Therapy takes about 30 minutes. Not that we're trying to rush anything. It's an IV push. You come in, we thaw the cells. You get to hold them there in your hands, watch them thaw, say a prayer over them. We inject the cells, and then we give about 15 minutes to make sure no complications happen. We've done around 400,000 therapies with no complications, but we always do procedure. And then that's it. We can do it. Uh, we have providers, all 11 providers across the U.S., so you can come into one of our spots, or we can come to you, just depending on how it works logistically. If you want to look up more information, you can go to newhoperegeneration.com. You can look them up on Instagram on New Hope Regeneration. They're also really tied into the Las Vegas Kings. It's kind of a dual partnership. Or you can look me up on Instagram at _ the Mantis and hit me up and I can give you more information.
Travis, thank you so much for your time. Um, and I guess talk to you soon, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you stay on for a second, because